Hey guys, welcome back. Today we're going to be doing our Temple Guard model for the Warhammer set. And as you can tell, I've managed to jury-rig away rather cheaply, and more often than not, probably going to be the worst way I've ever done this. And managed to find a way to get myself a more bird's-eye view of what I'm doing so you guys can more closely follow the brushstrokes and whatnot. However, this is one of the most ridiculous ways I've had to do it. Essentially, I strapped a rubber band to the camera and the camera to my head, so little wonky, but we live for wonky. And I'm also able to show you guys the piece over here that contains all my parts that I wasn't able to show you guys before. I think I'll take a quick moment to show you guys that. And basically what this is it's a 3-tiered setup. And I don't know what it was used for before this. It was probably some sort of just, button crafting little station. But I have effectively turned that around. And as you can see, I have a couple of broken repair, in need of repair pieces. And I'll get to those later. As you can tell with this guy on the bottom of his feet, he's die-cast metal. As I mentioned in the first video of this series, there are die-cast metal parts. But you can tell I have a wide range to select from involving all of my little pieces. I'm not going to really go into how these are over here, but if you can see them well, they're sort of painted already. Let me just bring that up. They're already kind of painted, and that was during a period of time where I was trying to mass produce color instead of trying to make them each individual. And for the most part, it was going to work well, but I got lazy. So what we're going to do today is we're going to start with our Temple Guard. And to do that, we're first going to need to pick our pieces. So let's just look around and see all the bodies that we've got. And this here just looks like a regular set of swords. So I'm just going to leave that alone. Which means my swords bodies for the Temple Guards are over here. And you'll notice some of them look a lot like the one we did last time, and that is because I accidentally used a Saurus Temple Guard piece, body piece, instead of just a regular sword piece. Which is fine, because technically you can give regular swords armaments, which just adds to the diversity. So, until you really decorate the head bits a lot more, there's really no right or wrong way to classify them. If you wanted to, you could go into each individual lore about each particular unit and give them their own little specs and their own little backstory, specifically tying them to the race they're with. However, for the sake of this, I'm just going to try and move along as much as I can. And I don't know if you can really see what I'm doing, but I'm just picking out pieces that interest me at the most to use as the head. I'm also looking for, headdresses, which are an essential part 95% of the time in establishing who's a Temple Guard and who's a Soar. Just a regular Soar. And what it looks like I'm going to be using is more than likely these two bits with this head, or quite possibly even this one over here. And I can't really turn my head to tell you guys how this looks because my head is kind of fixated in the same position. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to try and manipulate it over just a little with my extremely painful contouring head and neck area. And I'll probably check the quality of this afterwards. But anyway, these look to be our pieces that we're going to use. So I'm just going to go ahead and pick up a leg. And that leg actually looks like it fit really freaking well. So, out of that, we're probably going to just ditch this guy. But the problem is, I'm going to have to sand down the fins to get any part of this set up. And normally that's not such a bad thing. Especially since you can kind of plan ahead and figure out which pieces will fit with what particular guy. And what it looks like I'm going to wind up doing is working with this particular piece and then adding something like maybe this guy's jaw spike in later. So we're just going to move those out of the way. And we're just going to set these down out for the moment. And now we're going to look more into pieces for us to use. And I'm actually kind of confused on this particular piece because it's not tied to a hand or anything, so I'm not sure how it would be equipped. But I'm pretty positive we'll figure something like that out later in another video. That seems pretty, yeah, that'll work. I'm going to use this for his weapon for sort of obvious reasons. The tail feather kind of gives off that feel of the priest. Now what we're going to look for is the more difficult spot of picking a shield, and with the shields you can just kind of go with whatever since they're all the same. There's no discrimination on you know, a particular shield type for a particular group. And I'm kind of moving my head around a lot because I'm trying to dip in and look more into what I've got and what I don't got. And to make these guys even look more like the guard they claim to be, I'm going to be using a small piece like this, and it's just a simple jaw bit that you can add to any of the pieces. And I'm probably going to figure out a way to tie this in as well. So let's see here. Whoop. Yeah, I'll probably use that for another guy. So we've got our custom pieces. We've got yeah, look, there's another jaw for you guys to go on. Look at that. Look at that nice beautiful jaw. Probably just gonna go ahead and switch that out somewhere with the other one I picked up. Actually, no. Looks like I can just slide that onto either side. So I'm gonna keep that. Let's see now. Can we find that spike? You are not a spike. And the best part of this being a moddable game is that you can actually take clay, you know, modeling, small amounts of modeling clay, and add them to the pieces to create other units entirely, so you don't have to spend as much money for one particular piece, unless you want that really, really good workmanship and you know what you're doing. Where'd you go? Where'd you go? I am probably going to use this on him. Instead of sticking it straight out, I'll probably have it stick more downwards. And if I can find the head of the gallows. There it is. We're looking for something like this, but I think something more like that would be a bit more terrifying. Problem is, it's got this little grapple on it, which I'm pretty sure is going to interfere somewhere along the way. But I'll figure that out later. So now, we close this up. Awesome. And I'll probably go back to this little box more and more. So, oh, this is going to be a difficult video. I can already tell. Essentially, what it looks like I'm going to have to do is keep my head up. And at this point, it looks like it'd be a two-man operation for people to tell me how I'm looking at these things. So I'm just going to go ahead and try and ta-da! Move it out a little. There we go. Much more to the view than what you were probably seeing before, and I apologize if it was very obscene. So in case you couldn't see what I was doing earlier, these are all the pieces that I have selected thus far for the Temple Guardian. And now we're going to get to work, and hopefully this time you guys will actually be able to look into my new little toy. And we're actually going to check that right now, so give me a brief moment to... Yep, it looks like you will. So this is going to be a lot easier than I thought. So, now that we know that I can get you guys to look in on what I'm doing, I gotta turn this around. I gotta remember that the whole thing is right person intolerant. As you can see over here, I recently acquired some cement for plastic. And I know in a previous video that I used super glue, and I will probably go back to super glue. It's just it's a lot more expensive than buying 2 giant tubes of tester cement for plastic. And yes, while super glue will last longer, the tester cement is going to be a lot easier for me to just put on a small dab here, put on a small dab there, and be done with it for a while until I can go back and actually get it set. And to be honest, cement plastic or even cement metal shouldn't really move or break when you move your pieces around too much, unless you're doing a lot of rough handling like I mentioned in a previous video that you want to try and avoid. So I'm just going to go ahead and set one of these aside. I don't really need these, except for maybe this piece right here. Look at that. It's already just oozing. I'm just going to try and fix that. So, yeah. Sticky, sticky, sticky. It actually is quite, it has a quite more tolerable smell than the other, than the super glue. So now we're just going to go and pull out our pieces, and I think I'm going to go with what I used for the last temple garden. That was a dull green with a very, if I can find the dull green, it was a deep green with a, let me take a look here. I've sort of built myself a little display shelf to use. Uh-oh. I heard movement. Oh dear. Yeah. That super glue didn't really hold too well. His arm's starting to wiggle. But yeah, that green actually shows right up with what I wanted. But this guy, I'm not particularly sure if I still have his green. And I can't remember the name of the green that it was. So, let me go ahead and just pull out the sap green I used on the last guy, because that tended to work really, really well. Let's see, do I have another sap green? No, I have a Viridian, which, by looking at this, is not going to be a very useful piece. See, as you can tell, that's not a deep enough color. That's just deep enough, but I need something a little darker. So I'll probably mix in some black for that. Let's see, what else? Reds. Definitely gonna need some red. I'm gonna go with that red, since I don't have any other form of red. And definitely a heavy gold. But the issue is my gold is washing. You can now clearly see separating. Jiggle. And I'm sorry about that jiggle right there, guys. It's kind of hard to avoid when you've got a when you've got to shake up the piece of paint you're going to be using. And I would be cutting a lot of this out in the a lot of these bloopers, I guess, in my video editing software, but turns out the software I downloaded for editing, which came with this particular recording setup, or the recording software is fine, don't get me wrong, the recording software works beautiful, but the editing software that came with it apparently had a trial era, and I've exceeded that trial, and I don't really have the money to pay for premium options, so I can't export edited videos like I wanted to, and it will be a lot harder for me to find something until I can, or figure out how to mesh these together until I can find something. But anyway, that's enough on that. Let's go ahead and get started so I can try and keep this as short as possible and you guys aren't going to get bored. First thing we're going to do is we are going to start with our largest piece, and he's when it comes to the body, it's pretty much large enough where you don't need the magnifier unless you want to get right in there with like toothpicks and whatnot. Also, I recommend getting little bamboo skewers. They'll help you get into smaller curves like that for detail. If you wanted to add like little ridges or lines, like scoring, especially if you're working with your clay. So, without further ado, let's make sure this green is not watery. Oh, yep, watery. It's alright though, I'm pretty sure I have another in here somewhere. I'm almost positive I do. There it is. See, look at that. Beautiful. So let's add a little bit of that in there. As you can tell, it's really, really clumpy. And that's because this paint is actually rather old. I don't know if I mentioned that in a previous video or not, but it's sort of old. This is actually about maybe 2-year-old paint or so, and even then it wasn't really good. It was meant really only for like small art projects in an online class. And oh yes, as you can see over there in the back, that is my I don't know what that big bang was, but over there, what you just saw, if you could see the furniture piece, that was the work in progress of an ottoman that I'm refurbishing, and I've covered that in another video that I will be uploading shortly. But anyway, let's move on to painting this guy and getting that darker green that I'm hoping for. I know it's not really steady. Ooh, man, that is dark. That is black. That is blacker than black. That is not going to work at all. Well, I guess you could say that's a good thing because I might use some black in this later. So knowing that that the black is really heavy to go around is a good thing for me. As you can probably tell by my camera now, I'm not particularly high off the ground, and I'm pretty sure you got clues about that in other videos. But yes, it is official. I'm working very close to the ground, and that is due to the fact that this is a very low to the ground table I have, and I'm going to fix that up as well. I'll more than likely make a video of fixing that up. Fixing this up to be a higher up table. The reason I'm using this table instead of my desk or another workspace is because this is actually one of the best curves and design layouts I could ever hope for in a table when it comes to art. And the reason I say that is because it's got two holes over here, as you can tell, that perfect for holding something about as wide as this, and for my cup if it wasn't for the fact the cup is so short. And it's just a beautifully contoured design that makes it more comfortable for me. The only problem I had with it was the fact that it was short. And yes, it is steel, which is another thing, which means I don't have to worry about staining from my paints too much. This green is just globby. But that does kind of look like a nice marshy color, which for the most part, lizard men will have. The only reason I have something blue when it came to earlier was the fact that I had a rather nice idea of winter, basically winter styled lizard units. And the reason I say winter styled is because the units were Croxagores in most of the time when you think of lizards, you think hot, dense jungles. And most of the time that's true. And that is how I will paint the majority of these to be. But I wanted to expand on the use of the universe since it's not particularly canon in any, not particularly, I want to say defined or concrete. Nothing in the Warhammer world is concrete. There's no, there's no can'ts. In the Warhammer 40k series, look for something called the Tau Empire. They are basically a very mech-heavy race, and you can create alliances and mix units. So you can, if you have an army of Tau and, say, Space Marine, there's no reason for somebody to say you can't do that. Well, yeah, you can, because you can have lore written around it that the Tau have created an alliance with the Space Marines in order to defeat this person. Globby as this may be, this is actually working out to be a rather nice deep green. And yes, I did take precautions with this rubber band setup. So I have a hat on because earlier when I was setting this up, you literally only saw my hair, which is not real good when it comes to videos like this now, is it? And I have no idea if you can see what the hell I'm doing, because I tend to hunch myself over and bring my models closer to me. So unless you guys know where I can get Google glasses for insanely cheap prices, I don't think you'll be able to get an exact setup like I had, like I was hoping. But this is doing a magnificent job at just covering the whole thing with that really, really dark green. And it looks like some of it is shipping off because of the way I was holding it, which is fine. I kind of anticipate that. So yeah, nice deep green coated body piece. Now we go on to our leg piece. Same concept as I've shown you guys before. Completely and utterly covered in one color, so you don't have to worry about fine lines at the moment. I literally could just dip this thing inside the paint right now and completely douse it and rub parts of it off, and it would work fine. Because later you're just going to go back over the pieces and get them taken care of. The only thing I try never to paint on is over here on this base, because that's where they're going to be adhered to standing. And I'd like to keep mine standing as much as possible. Now, I'm not sure how in-game mechanics will work, but it seems to me like most people would prefer to not snap, but pull their pieces from the game by popping them out of the base, or something to that nature. I wouldn't do that, but then again, I have never played the actual game. I've always been kind of a painter hobbyist when it came to the models, and I actually haven't been able to buy any of the models lately. This is all still a gift from me from a relative of mine. Oh, shoot. I need to sand this down. If you guys are now following me, I should have some sandpaper laid around here. Problem is, I can't really tell where my sandpaper is at. Oh, sandpaper, where is the sandpaper? This is going to be a pain in the butt. I thought I had a filer around here somewhere. And, oh, there's always that. Actually, that might just work. If you guys can't tell what this box is for, it is to hold an X-Acto knife set. And X-Acto knives come in really useful when cutting out models, but the edges are severely sharp. So they will cut through your finger like a scalpel, and that's because they basically are scalpels. They have no issue just cutting through you. See how it just went right through that thing like butter? Almost like butter. But the idea is to shave this piece down, and you guys probably can't see it. But what I'm trying to do is file down that frill right there. If you remember, there was a spike on this a minute ago. Well, I am taking that spike off. And as another thing, you should probably never be doing this, by the way, you guys never want to keep that blade towards you. If anything, you want to shave it away from you guys. I'm doing that because I'm stupid. But essentially what you want to do when it comes to adding in those headdresses that I talked about earlier is just file it down. And since I can't seem to find my filer, this is about as close as I'm going to get to it. And I don't really worry about this matching the scores for everything else, because it's going to be covered up with the headdress anyway. And this headdress is actually going to be more complicated than the last one that I used, because it's going to incorporate both this and this piece right here, if at all possible. I think it would be possible to use, considering I can just set this right in there. If I had a bigger head of possibly for this guy. Otherwise it would sit more like that. But what I'm going to try and do, and that head looks to be about the same over there in the corner. His head looks to be about no different than the one I'm holding. So there's the possibility this could work. But what I'm going to try to do later is adhere this in a way that will let you see the skull, and I may just remove that skull. In fact, or not the skull, but I may trim down this large horn in the back, simply because it seems to be interfering with the skull placement. And that is actually going to be a learning thing for me, because I've never modded these pieces before like this. I've always kind of worked around them more than anything. So the fact that I'm doing this is a learning experience for the both of us. Alright, this is where we're going to start getting into the hold the piece bit of this game. Now if you give me a minute to turn my head, as painful as this looks for me to do this right now, I'm not sure if I mentioned before, but I was essentially twisting my head sideways to get a glance while maintaining the camera's angle. But yes, right down here, this little horn piece right here, I'm gonna try and cut it down as flat as I can to simply remove it. And the reason I want to remove it is because of the skull piece on the headdress that I'm going to be adding to it. So this is going to be one of the more heavy modded pieces I've ever done. And I think I'm just going to start by chipping away like this. And that actually seems to be working out rather well for me. It's just scraping off. Tiny pieces. Oh, I'm blurring. I'm getting blurry. There we go. Sorry guys, my vision was getting blurry for a second. It was not good when you're handling something like this. As I've no doubt just said probably 5 times in this video, these X-Acto knives will cut you to shreds if you don't keep careful attention with what you're doing. The reason I'm messing with the horn next to it is to file off the cuts and scrapes that I accidentally put through it due to the shaving I was doing. At this rate, this guy is going to look like maybe the head of the temple. The high priest, but that is actually a ranked unit that you can get in the game, and they have specific names, which is how you know this game is really good, is when generally you have nameless units, and then you've got those ones who can be considered special enough to get their own name and lore and all that back end. And let's just make sure I got this file down right. I would turn this further over, but it can't really go any further over, especially with my hand already on the touching the rest of this table. At this point though, it's fine shaving. Whoa, that was a bad idea. Just about flung all my pieces clear off the table. And I knocked 2 of them down this hole. I don't know why I have that in there. Scrolling through my stuff. The hell is that to? This is how you know I can get rather messy and rather stupid real quick. Got that. Do I have all my parts? Looks like I got all the parts. Awesome, I didn't miss too much of what I had. I didn't lose much of it. Note to self, softer blows. Especially for the gentleman. Giggity. Another unique thing about the lizardman race is they are all male, which most people would find crazy. Is, you know, how do they reproduce? How do they continue on their generations, etc., etc., etc.? Well, the simple answer is respawn pools. Literally, spawning pools. in case you guys are not quite familiar with that, a spawning pool is basically think of any game like Halo. Think of the Halo series for a second. In Halo, you had a respawn point. That respawn point was usually an even better version. Think of the Borderlands series. When you died, you were respawned at a waypoint, usually a portal of some kind. Well, that I can't remember the name of it for the life of me because I haven't been able to play Borderlands. All I know is from watching other people play. But what it was that what they have are literally pools, literal liquid pools that will spawn out of random new generations of the entire lizardmen race. And I say at random, and that's because it is at random. These spawning pools have no oh god, what is the word? They aren't timeable. You can't sit there and go, okay, this pool is gonna spawn another set of another SOAR in about 20 years. You can't do that. You literally have to sit there and wait. And the cool thing about each of the individual pools is they can spawn easily up to a small battalion of lizards, which is awesome in its own respect, considering it's a self-sustaining way of working with your population. And they go even deeper into it than that. Essentially, they talk about gods and such, allowing you to get a glimpse into the religious aspect of the lizardmen's daily lives, which is usually surrounded by a lot of war and death and so on and so forth. But they have an extremely large sense of brotherhood and camaraderie, which is very hard to find in any race. And I think that's why I usually akin to them more than anything. That, and also the fact that I myself tend to be more akin to lizards than humans. And I am not going to explain to that why. If you know the following website, e621.net, well, you can figure out what I am from there when it comes to what I just said. And to answer any quick questions, no, I don't use it for what 97% of the site looks like. Anyway, we're going to let that sit. And that leaves us on to the arm. And as you guys can obviously see, I'm going about this a different way than I am with the Saurus Warrior that I used. And that's because I figure getting in all the skin parts should be a lot. Just going over everything with the base coat of what it's going to look like would be a hell of a lot easier than trying to restrain yourself to just piece by piece. I'm really liking the way the screen turns out. I'll probably remember how to memorize this particular amount of green to black and use it in future lizards when they come up. At one point I wanted to make them very color coded. Temple guards had one base color. The regular SOARs, depending on the weapon they held, looked another color. you know, give it that bigger sense of protocol to war, I guess. But I dropped that in name of just sticking to individualism, which again is why some of the pieces that I showed you were all, pretty much all looked mass-produced. They looked like they were just one dipped in color and left to dry. Oh, sorry guys. And that's basically what they did. So I'm gonna go over those and repaint them as well. Now that we have our body done, I'm gonna start moving on to these smaller pieces. And it looks like I've got some of that tabbing from the time from when I pulled this off. So I'm just gonna go ahead and try and smooth that out. And this video might be worse or it might be better in terms of view of what I'm doing than the others. And if it turns out this is actually worse, I'm gonna go back to the previous setup and attempt to try another style at a different date. If this turns out to be better, I'm gonna have to remember rubber band to camera to hat to headphones, and the headphones are actually what's helping keep a lot of this stable. So if I sound a lot louder than normal, that's because I can't really hear myself talking in normal tones as I normally would. So anyway, we're going to move on to the headdresses themselves, because these are probably going to be some of the easiest pieces to do. And for that I'm going to go with the red, and I'm going to use my gold. And basically what I want to do is I want to take my gold and I want to I'm sorry guys, it seems the lid got screwed on a little too tight. You gotta be kidding me. There it goes. At some point I will probably switch to a silver on the on these guys as well. Hey, look at that. I think that might just be better for us, but just in case, I'm going to try and actually poke and prod and try and stir it all back up. That's another good thing about these bamboo skewers. You can use them as stirs for your paints in case they get a little stuck, a little goopy. That should actually hold better than that wash look we got on it last time. And perfect. But they do tend to flake like that a lot, and you have to be very careful if you put water on them, because they will get waterlogged like any wood would. I'm sorry. Funny time over. So we're going to start with this piece right here. And the reason we're going to start with this is because it's very flat, very easy, so it won't take a lot of paint. Literally about that much should cover this whole piece. The reason I say should is because I tend to estimate light dips of color than more heavy bits of color, because I'd rather have too little color to start with than too much color to start with, because if I have too much to start with, well, it's not like I can really take it back, because if I smudge it, then I'm going to have to go back and if I smudge what I wanted to keep on there, then I have to go back, put more on it, and then it just becomes a whole mess, and it becomes a big royal pain in the patella. As you can tell, there's like a little piece of hair from the brush getting in here, and that'll happen with your brushes. They'll get pieces of their hair stuck in them, and that's mainly due, and that's not mainly due, but that's to be expected with horse hairs that they use in the brushes. Even the synthetic horse hairs that they use nowadays. It's to be expected because they're not meant to be stiffly in place. They're rigidly glued in, instead of being just kind of held in by the bend here. And I'm basing this also off of what I can see. I've obviously never dissected a paintbrush. I've never seen a reason to dissect a paintbrush. But if they were glued any more tightly than they already are, and the pressure on the stamping process was a bit more firm, then you wouldn't get the flexible look that you can get, or the flexible strokes with these brushes. And I realize I'm putting a lot of paint on here. That's mainly because it doesn't seem to want to stick and actually look golden. It wants to look like it's got, you know, that gray sticking out. It wants to keep that gray sticking, and I want to get rid of that. And that seems to actually be doing the trick, is taking a little bit of the glob and sticking that glob all up in there. Oh yes, as an update, as I've promised, and more often than not delayed, on my beautiful, beautiful wife that I have. And I say beautiful, beautiful because I really do love her, and she doesn't seem to think she's beautiful most of the time. And I want to keep reminding her all the damn time that I love her. She's beautiful to me, and that's the only thing that should matter. But anyway, an update is she is ooh, that's peeling rather bad. But the update I'm trying to get at is she is taking requests, albeit they have to be small, as she doesn't have a lot of material to work with at the moment. And most of that is due to budget constraints. And it looks like I'm taking a lot of that little ridge decal that I had on there off. And I may just have to go back and repaint this whole damn thing. But I left my rag somewhere. So I'm going to have to find a new rag. Ow. Oh. You know what? I think I can spare a little bit of paint on my pants. Ta-da! And at this point you're going, well, that just makes the front look dirty and iffy, and you're right, it kind of does. But the whole point is to get rid of the pieces that make it look like crap. And if it winds up that I have to repaint this whole thing, so be it! It looks like I just might have to. Which, to be honest, I was expecting with this gold. It was reliable to me, but now it's starting to die. As I've no doubt said last time I used the gold. And so what I think is going to have to come down to is paint one side, let dry, flip over, paint other side, let dry. And that's exactly how I'm going to have to go about this. So, we've got that gold piece sitting there. Now it's for the more fun piece. And as you can tell better on this, that dip I was talking about in the last video, with the very thin and the very thick. So let's go ahead and just get this all nice and painted. Now if I had the chance to, I'd probably upgrade from paint and go straight into airbrushing. But I would need the airbrush kit and airbrush paints to go with it, and once again, time and money do not coincide with me. Try and get that top and that back. So much glue or separation. And the reason I keep wiping my brush on my jeans is, as I said before, I forgot my rag that I normally would be using. And the reason that I don't mind putting it on my jeans is, believe it or not, people were actually willing to buy a pair of jeans that had a crap ton of paint from my models on them. They wanted to pay me somewhere like $40-30 for it because they believed it was designer, and I just told them it's just paint. Just paint sitting on those jeans. Other than me, you know, putting splotches on them from time to time, there wasn't really anything added to them, and they could do it at home. But they insisted, so I wound up getting $40 for a pair of jeans that only cost me $10 at Walmart. Which I think is rather insane. You know what, I'm actually going to take that off because I don't really see the point in that at the moment. I think it's me just trying to... Well, I'll be damned. Get off of there, you little... Ah, whatever. I'll deal with that later. Alright, so... moving on to the shield. We're going to try and give it its base paint. And, I'm actually going to try and go for something of a lighter color than the black that I use. And, I'm not going to go for that blue. I want this guy to be vibrant, but I don't want him that vibrant. Yeah, this light green should do the trick. Again, I'm sorry for it to be being so jumpy like that. Oh, wow, look at that. That is, like, almost completely gone. There's no saving that. But I can go for that Viridian that I had earlier, which might look like, oh, gotta mess with it. I don't know if I said this before, but the reason I did that is to try and get that fluid to move around. So I can get more of the actual paint out, and it doesn't seem to be working on this one because there's so much in there. And I know I said to be careful with these because of their very thin aluminum set, or not set, but casing. But at this point, I'm going to be buying new paints anyway, so I don't really see any issue with me having to really keep these alive. Alright, that's not going to work. And I do believe I might have a leak on that thing somewhere, but I'll solve that later. I should have one other Viridian in here. Ta-da! Hey, toothpick. Could be useful. You never know. Oh, wow. You are one messy, messy thing. Try and move that around to make it easier. Let's just get that one little piece. Move that away and see separate. Nah, I don't think that's gonna work. You can darken it up though. That's no problem. When in doubt, you can always darken things up. That's another reason I like this particular spot here is you get to I've probably said this in a previous video, but you get to really mess around with your colors in this. Again, the reason I used my bamboo pieces, really easy to just wipe them down, and they're disposable. I can get like 20 of them for $4 or $5. And as you can probably tell, I haven't changed this water yet because I was actually painting something else with somebody the other day, and oh, pardon me, I thought I had a leak. Turns out I don't. Lucky me. But anyway, I was painting something for somebody else the other day, and I had to use this for it, and the water wasn't all that dirty when I started, or when I was finished with it. So I didn't really see an issue with just leaving it. Which kind of goes against what I've been telling you guys to do over the past couple videos, and that is to clean your cup frequently to avoid rings. That actually saturated itself really, really well. Whoa. And the reason I'm still going over this at this point is to try and brush away some of that excess. Ta-da! Gonna go ahead and leave that to do its own little drying. I'm actually just going to add a little bit of water into that. Whoop, made a mess. There we go. I'll clean that up later. It's not going to do me any harm on steel right now. And I do believe this is some form of galvanized steel because it's not really rusting. As most other steel things when they come into contact with a lot of water, as I've and scratches and shit have done. Anyway, he should be about dry now, along with his leg buddy. And so now we're gonna get into actually we're gonna get into spray techniques. The reason I say spray techniques is because if you get a stiff enough brush and just tap it with the top, just touch the end with it, you can do this. Just pull it to the side or something like that, and it will sprinkle your color of choice onto your piece. The problem with those, it will get on everything, so I would advise doing that as second, so that way in case you have a really good armor going for you, the armor doesn't get messed up by the paint and you have to nitpick at every single spot. Another way you could go about this is by taking the bamboo pieces and putting in every single spot by hand. but I don't want to go through that right now. And with that, we're going to try and find a color that would work with it. And to get an idea, if I still had it, is, actually I think I might, in the Lizardmen, yep, I think this is the one. In the Lizardmen series, and this is an inside look at how they have it set up. Again, you can see each individual stat for the pieces, all the fluff, the lore, and so on. But there is a section devoted entirely to color codings and such. Well, what I'm trying to find is a particular coding, or not coding, but color scheme setup that they mentioned in, I believe it was this book or another book, and it mentioned the use of spots to tell somebody who was blessed by a god, and I can't seem to find it. But if I remember right, bright orange was a color used for, if I remember correctly, the god of war. And since they are predominantly a warlike race, I'm going to try and use that orange to get in there. Now, that orange is a bit too fiery for most bits, but that'll actually work just fine for me. So all I gotta do is just get all this up in the brush. And I do clean this after each use, so you don't have to really worry about that. But you can see how the globbing is all over. And the reason I'm doing this is to try and spread all that goop among the bristles so it doesn't splat. Oh, that could have been nasty. So now what you just do is you take your hand and you would sprinkle it like this. And it's not really sprinkling as heavily as I wanted to, and that's probably because I didn't have it as loaded as it probably should be. So I'm just going to try a more direct approach. Normally I would advise against this, but we're in kind of a situation of disparity at this point. Alright, let's try it now. Nope. I think it's because of the gloop, or the globbing, has to do with it. Yeah, I think globbing is going to have a big... Another reason I like the stainless steel is if I make a mess around it, is I can just wipe it off later. Boy, that's a lot of pain on my hand. Spot, damn you, spot! And sometimes at this point I would probably either give up or just go like that and spot it more myself. Which I think is actually probably a better idea at this right now, considering how that looks. And I like the way that looks. So, seeing all that on my hand, I'm going to try and be as careful as I can when it comes to spotty. Yeah, spotty. When it comes to spotting, not spotty. Something is wrong with me today. Okay, that looks a little bit better. The reason, again, in case I missed it in my previous videos for this setup, is that soap helps run the water around and really get in and slicken the paint so it's easier to remove. The issue I have sometimes, though, is that it wants to move around like that. And yes, this is exactly what caused it to look so orange the last time. All sudsy. Normally, I would change my water right about now, but as I said earlier, my camera, in terms of editing footage, the software I have is set up for basic instead of premium, because it had apparently a trial date that I was on a trial session that I was unaware of. The recording I can still do, but editing out stuff like this can't really do. So now that we've pretty much used up all of our vermilion for this particular tube, we're going to put that away. And I would spot the head. I'm considering the head is going to be adorned with a bunch of heavy gold pieces. I don't really see the need for that, especially with the fact that there's going to be a giant white skull sitting on top of it all. So now we're going to see if we can get to the gold plating on his armor, which should prove fun. And one thing I noticed that I'd missed with the sword, and just the sword, considering it's the only thing I did in this series so far, one thing I noticed I'd missed with the sword that I did in the last video is I completely forgot about the toe claws. So I'm going to find a shade of either the same greenish black, and it looks like it came out more black than green, that I use, either a lighter shade or a darker shade, and that should prove to be useful. See, even with the slightest little dab of this black here, it comes out with a very dark color. And actually, if I can get you guys to look at it real closely, it left parts of that original green viridian in there, which gives it a nice little marbly swirl sometimes, which I think is pretty cool. Now, let's see here. Gold from the armor, so I'm going to leave my gold back open. And I was looking for the gold piece that I had for, or not the gold piece, but there it is, chin piece that I had. And I don't know why I still have this, but it looks like this would sit like that. If you guys can see that at all. That's how it looks like it would sit. but I'm probably gonna remove that chin chin spike and put this on. Actually, I'm probably not gonna put that on at all. But I am gonna remove that chin spike to put on this spike. So again, we're gonna bust out our X-Acto knife, and the blade I'm using on it is actually general purpose. I've never had to use any of the other blades, or this for that matter, to do any model work or any other kind of work. Or shiver me timber, or something like shit like that. I don't know what you say whenever you smooth off a piece. Now normally I would worry about that spot, but considering he's going to be covering that up shortly, don't really see a need for it. So anyway, got that taken care of. It's all locked under nice neat wraps. Ears are starting to kill me a little from this headphones, but necessary evil. Where are you, tiny brush piece? I think I'm gonna go with this brush. I haven't used it in a while, and actually would probably prove useful for gold, especially on smaller areas. Theoretically, if you're good enough, you could use the same brush all around for your painting, but I would prefer switching brushes simply because it gives me more control, as I lack a lot of that when it comes to a lot of things. Oh no, it's flaking. There's actually one reason I kind of like that flaking, and I haven't chosen to wipe it yet. And it's because it kind of gives off the impression of it being a bit of a torn armor. And in the Lizardmen setup, there is no idle person. Everybody contributes in their battles. You know, priests, the Slan Mage, which is basically like the oldest of the old and looks more like a frog than he looks like a lizard. And he is actually one of the most powerful units in the Lizardmen setup, aside from their really large rideable mounts and heroes like Carnosaurs, which you saw in that booklet, the very large mount that one particular unit was using. And even if you didn't really get a glimpse of it, you can take a look at the Warhammer store in Game Shop. I'm trying to. The website is called Game Shop, and they specialize what they sell dependent upon your region. So you can either be lucky or unlucky in what you get in terms of what you want to buy. And the reason they change, I think what it is, to be perfectly honest, is that what they have available is probably universal, but shipping rates will change the price astronomically and will give you a different number because of the currency ratings. So it may not even be the fact that certain things are not available to you. It may just be the fact that they're different prices because of your region. And that's more likely the more than likely that's why they do that. Anyway, I don't really know what I'm talking about on that particular subject because I haven't bought anything from there in a while. I just take a look in there once in a while to get ideas on what I can do at home to make the same unit, if for cheaper, or just to take a look at what they have out coming and how big they are to see if I can get a bigger model or something like that to paint with. Because in my opinion, the bigger the model, number one, the more room for the mistakes, and number two, the more room for detail. As most people will no doubt agree, the bigger something is, obviously the more detail you can put into it, unless you're supremely good at putting in small details on very small items. And I would say I'm good at that, but I would probably be lying, because I myself don't even know what the hell I'm doing half the time when I do these videos. I'm just trying to let you guys listen to my brain so you can get an idea of what to do, what not to do. And this is all based on what I have so far, so my knowledge can be useful to you guys, or it could be completely invalid. I'm hoping on the useful side. But see, now we're starting to see that pattern and the battle armor come out. They're little spikes. Anyway, again, the tail, the claws. I'm still gonna take a look at what I'm gonna use for that. I'll probably go with this green, but at the same time, most likely not. It's a wash. So I'm actually probably gonna use the same stuff I used on the shield for these claws, because that actually might be a better option for me. So we're just going to set you off to the side to dry. And we're going to move on to the this leg armor right here. I actually like the way they developed that leg piece, and if it were up to me, all of my units would have it, but sadly, I do not have units that will, I want to say enough units that would hold these legs, but I also am going to say I don't have enough cash to buy specifically those parts, nor do I have the know-how on how to get specifically those leg parts. And that is because most of the time their legs will actually swap. Sometimes you get a leg stuck over here and you have to put this one in, but that's getting ahead of the current situation. Because of how long this video is looking at the moment, I'm probably going to leave assembly for the next video and some of the smaller, finer details. And more than likely, that's exactly what I'm going to be doing. But first, let's get some of the gold onto this shield. I'm going to try and leave that bubble, that nice little bulge right there, alone, so you can, so I can get that nice contrast to just something solid gold. And it does pay me to paint up this bit, because this is where it especially showed the marble swirling. Oh no! Painted on the ball. Move. Do not taint that ball. Yeah. As you can tell, a drastic difference from here to here. And like I said before, I usually leave this side blank because nobody's ever really going to see it, but you can paint it if you want. Let's go ahead here and get onto these little flags over here. Ta-da! Now we're going to paint that. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Ah! Hate when I drop it like that. There's a chance of the paint scraping and all that. Ta-da! And you know what? You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna take these two fangs right here. I'm gonna make them gold. Make this guy look like he's had a couple. Make him look like he's really high up there. And it's actually gonna be easier if I pull this piece out. And the sad part about me having this is I'm not really going to use... Oh, wow. That was kind of catchy. Ow, no! Left a scratch. Oh, well. I can find that out. But one of the reasons this particular piece is actually kind of saddening for me is I'm not really going to be using it a lot. As small as these parts are, you can mostly see it from hand. Ah, there we go. It's gonna be a pain to do. Ah, no, there's stuff all over the lens. I don't know if you can really see what I'm doing, but I'm trying to get that tooth goldened up, then do the same to this one. And this is actually where having a sitting hand would come in to help you. But I am not particularly steady with my hands. I have to use a lot of stabilizing, and it actually hurts my articulations when it comes to I can leave that. Well, guys, that looks to be about it for right now. I'm actually kind of stretching to move all over the small set to give you guys a better look at what all I've got laid out. You know, that over there is the X-Acto knife, little spot, and so on and so forth. But for any other reasons I can think of, I am probably going to leave this alone, do all the finishing touches and details and such for the next video, because this is getting rather long. If I'm looking at it right now, it's 1 minute 24, no, not 1 minute, 1 hour and 24 minutes. Oy. So anyway, remember, be safe, be good. Do not want to see you guys on the wrong side of the newspaper. You are all family, you are all brothers, you are all hatchlings. You are my hatchlings. So, goodbye, my little ones. Goodbye, the little hatchlings. Goodbye, the bigger hatchlings. Anyway, I'm rambling. Thanks for watching, as always. And please be sure to comment, subscribe, and check out any of my other videos that interest you. So